My name is Georgia, a portrait by Jeanette Winter. Georgia O'Keeffe was born on a farm in Wisconsin in 1887. When I was 12 years old, I knew what I wanted to be, an artist. I've always known what I wanted. When I was small, I played alone for hours and hours. I was satisfied to be all by myself. I did things other people don't do. When my sisters wore sashes, I didn't. When my sisters wore stockings, I wore none. And when my sisters wore braids, I let my black hair fly. I rode to town every Saturday to copy pictures from the stack in the art teacher's cupboard. At home, I looked out my window and drew pictures of what I saw. Maybe I could make something beautiful. At school in Chicago, I drew from statues in the museum. At school in New York, I painted one still life painting a day, every day. At school, I painted my teacher's ideas. But when the school days were over, I went out into the wide world to discover my own ideas. I went to the Texas plains, the wild west of my childhood books. You have never seen sky. It is wonderful. I walked into the sunset. I felt the wind across the plains. And I painted the sunset and the sky and the wonderful loneliness and emptiness of the place. I painted day and night. I worked till my head all felt light in the top. I have things in my head that are not like what anyone has taught me, shapes and ideas. But I bundled up my paintings and went to New York City to be where artists live. I walked down in the canyons of steel. I lived high up in the clouds and painted what I saw from my window. But sometimes what I saw from my window was the far away calling me. I painted a garden in the city. I wanted everyone to see flowers the way I saw them. I looked closely at the flowers. I painted a camellia. I painted it big so people would notice. I painted a jack in the pulpit. I painted it big so people would see. I painted poppies and petunias and sunflowers and jimson weeds and irises and apple blossoms. My garden bloomed until everyone saw the flowers the way I saw them. But still, I looked up to the sky. The distance has always been calling me. I went to the New Mexico desert, so far away that no one ever comes. I was satisfied to be all by myself. It was too dry for the flowers to grow, but there were bones. I gathered the bones, big bones, little bones, short bones, long bones, a cow's skull, a horse's skull, a ram's skull, and brought the bones home to paint. One day I held one up against the sky and saw the blue through that hole. I painted what I saw. I saw the sky and the red hills. I walked in the hills at daybreak and twilight, at noon and starlight. I painted the arms of two red hills reaching out to the sky and holding it. I painted the mountains in the far away. I painted them over and over and over again, and then again and again. I drove my Model A across the desert and back, and up and down and over the hills. I painted in my studio on wheels until the afternoon bees chased me home. Even in winter, I went far out into the far away and painted in the bitter cold. I painted when the wind was so strong it nearly blew me away. I did things other people don't do. I climbed my ladder to the night sky to wait for the sun. I slept under the stars to see the morning sky when I woke. I stayed in the desert. My hair turned from black to gray to white as the bones. I still walked the red hills. My pile of bones grew. My flowers bloomed in the desert, and the mountain was mine. And the sky, oh, it was still wonderful. I painted the sky one more time. I painted my sky big so people would see the sky the way I did. I worked from dawn to dusk every day for weeks and months. Then as I painted the last cloud, the sun slipped behind the mountains. I laid my brushes down. Kiss the sky for me. Georgia O'Keeffe lived to be 98 years old. In museums all across the land, people see her flowers, deserts, hills, cities, and skies the way she did.
Today we're going to make flowers like Georgia O'Keeffe. Georgia O'Keeffe's flowers were very big and zoomed in so you can see all of the details and beauty of the flower. Today we're going to draw our flowers big to fill the whole space of the paper. Here's what you'll need to use: white paper and some crayons. I'm going to make my flower to look like this poppy, Georgia O'Keeffe's most famous picture. what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our Georgia O'Keeffe flower. So one paper is for our drawing and the other paper is gonna be our template. You're gonna fold this paper in half one way and then in half again. And this just makes the paper smaller so that you could draw your template. You're gonna draw one petal on here and then we're gonna trace it over and over again to make our flower. And I'm gonna do mine kind of like a heart. You can draw however you choose. You can do a pointy one. You could do one that's more rounded, whatever shape. You should have a point like a V on one side, and then the other shape doesn't matter how you make it. So I'm gonna cut out one petal, whichever one I like the best. I'm gonna go with the heart, and my fingers go 2 in the big hole, 1 thumb up. And bring your paper to the scissors. You're always moving the paper and your scissors stay straight. Open, shut. And then this is gonna be my petal. I'm gonna repeat this shape over and over again around the circle to make my flower. So I'm gonna just do a dot, not right in the middle, off to the side a little bit, and that's gonna be the center of my flower. And then I'm just gonna match the point of the V, the dot and the dot, and I'm going to trace this, and I'm just gonna go around. And then I'm gonna lift it up and I'm gonna put it down and I'm gonna trace it again. Where the lines meet, that's where I'm going to stop. So again, I'm gonna trace it. And then I get to that petal and I stop and I lift it up again. And then I'm gonna put it down again and I'm gonna trace it. And I want it to go off the paper. Georgia O'Keeffe really zooms into her flower, so it's good that it's hanging off the paper. And then I'm going to trace it again. Until I get all around my picture. And then I'm going to make a circle in the middle with a darker color. You could do a zigzaggy line or you could do a wavy line. And you're gonna just do that in a circle. And then color that in. And you could pick whichever colors you want. I picked the red, orange for the petals and the black for the center to make it look like the poppy picture of Georgia O'Keeffe. After you do that, you're gonna color in your petals and pick a color for the background. So I'm going to speed this up as I color. As you add color to your art today, you can use crayons or watercolor paint, whatever you choose. Make sure you use it nice and neat. Now that I'm done, I'm gonna just sign it like an artist. Now it's your turn to make your Georgia O'Keeffe flower. Remember, you're folding your paper into 4s and you're making different kinds of petals. Make sure you have that V and put a dot at the V. Remember, that's your centerpiece. And then you're gonna just rotate it around and trace over and over to create your flower. I'm gonna leave my teacher example on the screen. Now it's your turn to work.